Hello friends, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing good. It's time for another episode of Fragrance Battle. In today's video I'm going to compare 4 fragrances that have one main thing in common, and that's the fact that they're highly versatile, they can be worn pretty much all year round for any type of occasion, and they can serve as a signature scent. 2 of them come from the house of Armaf and 2 of them come from the house of Afnan. The Armaf fragrances are Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP and Armaf Club de Nuit Iconic, and the Afnan fragrances are Turathi Blue and Modest Un. Usually I start the fragrance battles videos with a comparison between the packaging and the bottle design of the fragrances featured in the video. But this time around I'm going to skip the packaging part and I'm going to quickly go over the bottle design, because to be honest I'm not the biggest fan of any of them, you know, when it comes to the actual bottle design. The Armaf fragrances look like this. The bottle design, it's pretty much identical, because pretty much they come from the same line, you know, the Club de Nuit line, and the only difference here being the color combination on the Club de Nuit Iconic bottle. When it comes to the 2 Afnan fragrances, again, as I said, I'm not the biggest fan. Modest Un has a very strange looking bottle, especially the cap. I don't like it at all. And Turathi Blue actually looks kind of interesting, but you know, there's one fact that I don't like about this bottle, and that's the thing that it's the bottle is quite wide and at the same time very narrow, and the bottom part is very narrow as well, and this thing can be very wobbly on the stand. But if I have to pick up a fragrance bottle that I actually enjoy more compared to the others, it's going to be the one of Club de Nuit Iconic, and that's mainly down to the fact of the actual color combination of blue and silver, which I think really looks nice. If you enjoy my videos guys, but for some reason you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. It motivates me to keep creating more useful content for you. And also don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. Next way that I'm going to compare the 4 fragrances, of course, is going to be by their actual scents. Now, all 4 fragrances can be considered clones or heavily inspired by from famous designer and niche scents. And I'll start with the the Afnan fragrances. The first one here is Modest Un. And this thing is a straight up clone of Dior Sauvage. It's maybe like a slight combination between the EDT and the P variant, leaning more to the EDT side. But at this point, probably there's hardly anyone in the world that's not familiar with the way that Dior Sauvage smells. And the second Afnan fragrance, of course, Turathi Blue. This thing is a clone or heavily inspired by Bulgari's Tiger. You know, you get that woody, citrusy, sweet, ambery, musky scent. This differs compared to the original, at least to my nose, by the fact that it's a bit more sweet. You know, the grapefruit note in here is more juicy, is sweeter compared to the original scent, and the dry down is sweeter. Again, you get more ambery sweetness out of this fragrance. But all in all, this is a really interesting, fresh, woody, musky, you know, slightly spicy scent profile that is actually very likable. And again, this is maybe not as recognizable as some of the other scents featured in this video, but still this is a very likable scent that usually gets a lot of compliments, and all in all, this also smells of a very high quality. When it comes to Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP, of course this is a clone of Creed Aventus, and again, you can hardly you'll probably have a hard time at finding a person who's actually not familiar with the way that Creed Aventus smells. You know, knowingly or unknowingly, but pretty much everybody out there has who's at least a little bit into fragrances has smelled the Creed Aventus, or you know, a lot of its clones. Like, it has hundreds of clones at that point. And when it comes to the Club de Nuit Iconic, this fragrance is heavily inspired, or some people call it a clone of Bleu de Chanel EDP. You got pretty much the same thing, the things that you get with the original scent, you know, that citrusy opening that has some spices, and then you got this sort of creamy, woody, creamy dry down. Of course, this lacks a bit of the quality of the original scent, maybe like has a bit of harshness compared to the original scent, lacks some of that creamy woodiness that you get out of a Bleu de Chanel, but scent-wise is very close to the original fragrance, and it's a very, very versatile and very, very likable scent. It still has good quality, and I've always thought of Club de Nuit Iconic as a slightly more masculine, slightly rougher version of Bleu de Chanel EDP. I have to pick up a winner when it comes down to the quality of the scent out of the 4 fragrances. My personal winner will be Turathi Blue from Afnan. This thing has absolutely no harshness at all, and the scent quality in here is very, very high. The close second position for me will be Club de Nuit Iconic, with Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP and Modest Un sharing the third place. The next way that I'm going to compare the 4 fragrances is going to be by their performance. Now, all 4 fragrances in this video are actually a very nice performance. You won't be disappointed by the performance of any 4 of them, but the 2 fragrances that have slightly less performance compared to the others are the 2 Afnan scents. Both Modest Un and Turathi Blue have been giving me around about the 8.5 to 9 hours when it comes to performance, with Turathi Blue actually having a very, very solid projection in the first up to 2 hours. The second place when it comes to performance will go to Club de Nuit Iconic. Now this thing, especially after a little bit of maceration, has turned into a real strong performer, and I've been getting about 10 hours of performance out of it with a very solid projection in the first 2 to 2.5 hours, and that leads me to the number 1 position, which is reserved for Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP. This thing has always been a great performer for me. This has been a beast mode performing fragrance in my experience. I've been getting over 12 hours of performance on my skin with very, very solid projection in the first up to 3 hours. So when it comes to the actual performance, the strongest fragrance in here is Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP. When talking about versatility, it's hard to really pick up a winner in this category, simply because, as I said in the opening of this video, all 4 fragrances are highly versatile scents that work all year round. So that brings me on to my final thoughts and the final results of this fragrance battle. Now I'm going to tell you my ranking. If your opinion is different, you can use the comment section down below this video to let me know. But my personal winner in this fragrance battle is going to be Club de Nuit Iconic from Armaf. And I'll give you a few reasons why that's the case. First of all is the performance. This thing has a very, very strong performance. The second thing is the price tag, especially nowadays. This thing can be found for a very reasonable price, something like 35 to 40 euros. I think is a great price when you consider what you're getting in return. And the last reason, of course, is the actual scent profile. It's a very nicely done clone of Bleu de Chanel EDP, and that fragrance nowadays can be considered as a modern day classic. It's super nice, super classy, super gentleman-y, super versatile, and I bet you that even 20 years down the road from now on, the Bleu de Chanel EDP scent DNA will still be considered as a great fragrance. So that's why my personal winner is Club de Nuit Iconic. When it comes to the second position in this fragrance battle, that's reserved for Afnan Turathi Blue. And again, I'll give you a few reasons. This thing has a very nice performance. The quality of the scent is fantastic. It's an interesting take on the Bulgari Tiger DNA. I really like the opening of this fragrance, that juicy, sweet grapefruit note. And all in all, this thing is a really, really nice fragrance, and that's why it comes into second position. In third position is going to be the Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP. And I'm a big fan of this fragrance because of its performance, because of its versatility, and because of its price tag. Especially if you go for a bigger bottle like this one, you'll end up paying something like 50 to 60, let's call it about 60, maybe even 65 euros. But you're getting a 200 milliliter bottle size, and this thing can last you for years because of its performance. It's highly versatile. It's done a little bit better compared to the EDT flanker. It's a more polished version of the EDT DNA and scent, and again just works, brings you a lot of compliments, and has fantastic performance. And in the last, fourth position for me comes the Afnan Modest Un. For a few reasons, I'm not really a big fan of the bottle design, and probably the other reason is the fact that this thing just does not perform as good as the other fragrances featured in this video. But still, for me, this is a close fourth place because I'm a big fan of the Sauvage EDT DNA. So guys, in today's episode of Fragrance Battle, I compared for you 4 fragrances, 2 of them from the House of Armaf, Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP and Club de Nuit Iconic, and 2 from Afnan, Afnan Turathi Blue and Afnan Modeste Un. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in my next video. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.